for me, the outdoors is my release.
Welcome to the Swifty podcast, inspiring positive change through design, innovation and technology. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have Andrew Isherwood joining us. It's really cool to have him here. He is a friend of Swifty for quite some years now, going back. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
He's a really keen outdoorsman, enthusiast. He's got a really cool Instagram feed, videographer, photographer, ex-military, loads of cool stuff that we're going to go into now. So welcome here.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Pleasure. Let's start off with how we first got to know you guys. So first of all, I'll say that Andrew is a twin with his brother Mark.
So I came across your video of you sort of bombing down Snowdon on a Swifty.
One. Okay.
And I instantly was, Mark found it and sent it to me and was like, we need to have a go at this. So I was like, most definitely.
Who's this nutball guy?
Yeah. So I think sent you a message and was like, I want to come and meet you guys.
That's right.
And I think within about a week we come to have a chat, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah. To the old place, the other unit. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then took 2 Swifties underground.
That's right. Through the caves.
Yeah. And that came about because when we were kids, we were probably about 8 or 9, maybe 10. But we were very young. It was when MBR, Mountain Bike Rider magazine, had first launched. My dad and his friend took 2 mountain bikes underground and sent the article into Mountain Bike Rider and said, we've been mountain biking underground.
Oh, wow.
And they turned it away and said, it's too dangerous for our listeners. We don't want to do that. So when we saw, what your scooters were capable of, we were like, let's redo that.
Too dangerous for our audience.
Yeah, when they first launched that magazine, they were like, we don't want our.
How crazy is that? You know, I just saw on Instagram the other day, Danny McCaskill. He was riding on the blade of a wind turbine.
How times have changed.
Like riding on a blade of it. It was crazy. So tunnels are okay. They're fine.
Yeah. So from that, we were like, let's do this. But then obviously something changed then, so my brother's job changed and stuff like that as well. So he's now hopefully finalising his paramedic degree. So his life's sort of been taken over from work in a good way, really.
That's cool.
So he's not been out as much as what I would like to have been out with him.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of met. And then obviously more recently, saw that you were big into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want some of that as well. Definitely was like, I'm up for coming and getting beat up at some point. Let's have a go. Joined Factory, and that journey's been ace so far.
That's awesome,
as much as it's referred to as a journey, but no, that's been like we've said, it's been one of the best hobbies I think I've started.
Yeah, cool.
From like a physical point of view and a mental point of view of it's one of the twice, 2-3 times a week you get to really sort of push yourself. And I'm big for that. So that's been good as well.
Yeah, it's helped, right? I remember when we first met and you told us all about your military background as well.
Yeah.
And the kind of the struggles afterwards, and how all these different activities getting up back into the wild and your kind of leadership skills. Yeah. With you did a course at Plaza Brennan, was that right, in North Wales?
Yeah. So obviously, grew up in the outdoors. Huge part of my life and my brother's as well. Our dad was an outdoor instructor, and rather than sort of being left with like other family members or daycare, we kind of just went to work with dad.
Right.
So we were like abseiling from the age of like 4 or 5.
Oh, cool.
Sounds cool. Until someone's like, you're going off this cliff, and you're going off kicking and screaming or smiling, but you're going off.
So he's a tough dad then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the time, obviously, you kind of look at it as oh God, this is not fun. But looking back on it, of all the stuff that I've done, I'm really grateful for that upbringing and opportunities I had. So grew up doing the outdoors. So going in the military was like a natural progression, almost. So originally, I was going in the Navy. That's what I wanted to do.
Right.
As an artificer, which is like an engineering officer, basically. when I applied, just wrong time really. I think I was still very young. I was 16, right in the middle of my GCSEs sort of thing. Didn't pass their sort of maths exam the first time round because they have a separate exam, and then the second time when I passed it, they closed the application and said we're stopping this for a bit.
Oh right.
So come back in 4 years.
Oh shoot.
So I remember I walked out the careers office in Manchester and I was absolutely gutted because we grew up doing cadets and things like that as well. So I was very keen to go straight from school. My dad literally just turned me round and pushed me back through the door and went, go to another desk, just go join something else.
Oh right.
So I just walked up to the army and was like, they've literally just said no. Let me join the army.
Can I enlist?
Yeah, and so they're like, what do you want to do? So I was like, I don't know. what can we do? So
was your brother with you at the time?
So no, Mark was going through the process of joining the army, but he was going in as a medic originally.
Okay.
So I basically sat down and was like, I don't know, I don't really want to just join the infantry. I'll join the parachute regiment. And they were like, it's really difficult. And I was like, well, I wanted the Navy or the Marines, and they've just said no, so let's do this. And so I did my first round of sort of like interviews and exams.
Right.
And then on like your second batch before you go to training, it was definitely a Royal Engineer that I spoke to.
Right.
I can't remember, but I remember sitting down and someone going, we've got some good GCSEs. Do you want to trade? I was like, I've no idea what that is. And he was like, well, if you join the engineers, you can blow things up. So I was like, sold. I was like, let's do that.
Brilliant.
So I joined the Royal Engineers, joined as like a driver specialist, and then was posted to explosive ordnance disposal, like EOD, and that sort of led on to me sort of doing like, more advanced sort of driving courses and things like that, and then doing my EOD qualification.
Right.
So I could work as what was called a number 2 to a number 1. So the number 1 will do all the super dangerous bits. We, as a number 2, you assist them, and you look after like the equipment and kit, make sure everything's done to safety standards and all that sort of stuff.
So this is bomb disposal.
Yeah.
So what's that? What is so for someone who has no clue at all? Is it kind of like where you'll go through classes of like loads of different kinds of types of bombs?
Yeah.
How to take them apart and how
so
to
things are slight. How it's run now, I think, is slightly different. It's almost all under one sort of umbrella now.
Okay.
It was when I went through the Navy, the RAF, and the Army have their own branches, or did have at the time. So Air Force did anything that was fastened to aircraft and not functioned specifically.
Okay.
And a few more bits like if you come to like an ejection seat and things like that, and that's not functioned properly. Navy did anything that was below the high water mark.
Okay.
And the Army did sort of everything in between,
Right.
From World War 1 and 2 ordnance right up to modern day. And then it was split into 2 sections at the time. So I was in the Royal Engineers, and we did mostly sort of like ordnance that has been manufactured for use. So,
right.
What you would classify as a bomb being dropped on something.
Okay.
And the RLC, they've got what's called ammunition technicians. So they did improvised explosives, and it's all come under one.
So that's like homemade
thing.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that kind of changed during Iraq and Afghanistan because there just isn't enough operators.
Right.
So there's a big push for RLC. Engineers started doing more like IED courses as such. So yeah, and that was just went from there. But I never envisioned sort of doing that as a job. It was never. I didn't go into the engineers and be like, I want to be posted to EOD.
Yeah.
You just kind of get put where you put. But loved it. I'd had a really good career for the most part, and I think what made it unique is Mark was at university at the time when I was in the army. I'd been in the army about 3-4 years, I think. Had just been promoted, and Mark basically said like, university is not happening for me. I don't really like it. I want something else. I'm thinking of joining the army. And I was like, if you don't join the engineers, I will never speak to you again. So we joined the engineers, and by pure chance, I was having a chat with my troop commander, and he was like, your brother's in training, is it? And I was like, yeah, he is. And he went, whereabouts? I was like, oh, is it? It's phase 2 training at the minute. I don't know if he's getting posted. And he went, 1 second, stand there. picked up the phone, phoned someone, and he was like, "Your brother's coming here."
Nice.
So we were posted together as twins, which is like
great,
super rare.
right?
But an amazing experience to sort of to share that together. So I did just shy of 8 years in the army. I was discharged after Afghanistan. So I was discharged with medical discharge for mental health, but it wasn't necessarily all service related.
Right.
So whilst my brother was deployed, we lost a friend of someone that we both served with and knew, and he was with my brother when he passed.
Oh, sorry.
That weighed quite heavy on Mark, as you can imagine, and my family. Now, that's the first time I'd looked at the military from a family's perspective.
Right.
Obviously, when you deploy away, it's quite a selfish job. You know, you just expect people to sort of go with what you're doing.
Right.
So you
and cope.
Yeah, because you just ring home and you're like, "Oh, you're right," and everyone's just all right on the phone.
Yeah.
Never once did I think, I wonder how they feel about it, until Mark went away.
Right.
And obviously the job that he did, I knew what he was doing. So for me, I remember being like, I'm not happy with my twin doing this. Like, it's really dangerous.
Yeah.
And my summer and Mark's summer away with a time when the UK took massive casualties. There was, every day there was, a casualty or a death. So there's big worry for my family. And then, so Mark was away. For whatever reason, we lost our father. So he was a missing person for a week. And sadly, when he was found, he'd taken his own life. That was completely out of the blue. Right. But that then sort of set a chain of events in motion, really. I knew from that, I was like, I'm never going to be able to do my job again effectively. I've just lost like my ultimate hero and my main support for everything. My parents were very supportive of what we did. Mark was deployed, obviously, when that happened, so he had a very different sort of coming home to what he envisioned and what everyone else gets. So after that, we collectively, we were both discharged, and I was like, I don't really know what I want to do.
Yeah, it must be quite difficult, right, to deal with that, and then all of a sudden you have a massive change in life.
Yeah,
I mean, famously the military's kind of like not very good post.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, so they've definitely got better, I think, of how they deal with things. I remember going to my chain of command effectively were really good.
Right.
Initially, I basically said, "Listen, this is what's happened to my family. I am not okay from this, and I need some time off." And they were like, "Yeah, it's okay. You can have 2 weeks." And I was like, 2 weeks is. I'll tell you now, like 2 weeks isn't okay. So I had 2 weeks off, and then my son was born. My first son was born.
Oh, wow.
But that was a really sort of traumatic labour for who was my wife at the time. So that didn't go to plan either. So I remember sort of being stood there, being like, "What have I done to deserve this?" So they were not that great after that. I basically said, "Listen, I need more time off because my wife is now ill, and my family are not okay, and I'm pretty concerned that my brother isn't having the sort of welfare that he should be having.
Yeah.
He's not okay for stuff that he's dealt with when he was away.
Yeah.
And he's come home to this.
Yeah.
So.
Were you both deployed separately then?
Yeah, we were. Yeah. So I went
you
away.
Weren't there at the same time?
No. So I went away and came home, and then Mark went away.
Right.
So
weird.
My parents did like a year if their children being deployed.
So when you were on deployment, you call that a tour, right?
Yeah, a tour.
So how long's that? 6
for?
months. That's 6 months.
Yeah,
it's always 6 months. 6 months.
Yeah, unless you're really lucky, unlucky. It depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
You can do. Well, they did do short deployments, so you could do like half tours if you were doing what's called battle casualty replacement.
Okay.
Or if someone had to come home for like welfare, you would swap places effectively.
Okay.
So
you came home, he went out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's a different squadron, so that was his squadron's turn effectively.
Okay.
So then I basically said, like, "Listen, I need more time off," and they were like, "Well, if you don't go away, you won't be getting promoted." I was like, "Well, don't promote me then." And it was that decision that I was like, "I'm done. I'm done with this."
Yeah.
Really struggled to sort of go back into work effectively, because at the time I didn't realise that I'd take a bereavement like that I don't think anyone does really. So I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was leaving. But I was like, well, I've loved the outdoors. I've grown up doing that. That looks like it will be an awesome job.
Yeah.
And then looked at doing my qualifications, and on average to do your mountain leader, it takes anywhere between sort of like 3 to 8 years to do all of your training.
Oh wow!
Because if you go in from sort of scratch, you've got to do all your consolidation.
Yep.
And I said to myself, I was like, I'm going to do this in 12 months.
Right.
Like, I want a challenge. This will be done in 12 months.
Wow.
Found a way to sort of get my qualifications in one go, but still I had to do my consolidation. So I spent nearly a year quite selfishly just in the mountains, effectively, logging my days.
Is that what the consolidation is? It's just days
yeah,
out?
You've just got to do so many days out, guided
Right.
days, different routes,
Right.
So many overnights and stuff like that.
And does that have to be somehow vetted by someone?
So you do it in a logbook.
Right, you log it.
Because I always thought, well, you could just write whatever you want.
Yeah.
The people who assess you, they definitely tell
They
if
know
it's
what's going on.
I went there with, what I thought was going to be more than enough, because you can go right back to, being a kid, basically.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I don't know if it's just the school, Plessy Brennan's known for being, like, really prestigious of
Yep.
handing out quals. They were like, you've not got enough. And I was like, there's no way I have not got enough. And they were like, no, some of these you've done like twice. So, like, you need to go and redo different ones.
Oh, so a trip you can't count twice?
Not really, no.
So let's say you do, I don't know,
So if you did
Triffin, and then you did Snowdon, and you came back, did Triffin again, did Snowdon.
Yeah.
That's only one for each.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
Because
right. Okay.
you need to go somewhere that's not rooted and new to you, effectively,
Okay.
to show leadership and that you can do it.
Okay.
So I went to Plessy Brennan, did what's called the fast track instructor scheme. So you could go there with your prerequisites for all of your outdoor qualifications and get all of your, all of your quals while you're there. It's an unrealistic way of looking at it. There's a
Pretty
lot of work.
expensive as well, right? To do all those courses.
It's about, on their own, they're expensive.
Yeah.
The course I did worked out about 15, 16 grand.
Wow.
In total to get it. There's a lot of young people there because they did it instead of a degree.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
So the
And
parents.
what kind of professions are they going into afterwards?
So outdoor work, so working at outdoor centres and things like that. So
leading groups and taking them on trips and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I left and was like, got my qualifications and was like, this is gonna be the job. It's very difficult to do that every day.
Yeah.
Especially when you're new to being a civilian as well. So I did the course wasn't a problem because I was used to being away and being outdoors. Some people really struggles because they were young and they're not used to being away,
right?
Or being in winter every day for
cold
4 months.
Every day. Yeah.
Because at first it sounds really glamorous that going to me and you would quite happily go to Plessy Brennan for 4 months and be in the outdoors until you are there. So there'd be days where obviously if you do a big climb, and you're tired, the next day you might go, right, we're going to go and do another one, or we're going to go kayaking, and the novelty does wear off.
Try doing a big climb and then falling on a clip or a wire and it comes out. Try and climb the next day.
Well, I remember having my first sort of, I'd never led before, so I was taught how to lead. And they were like, right, we're gonna go to Traumatic and you're gonna do a multi-pitch with another lad who'd not led before.
You never led before?
No.
Oh my goodness.
So my first lead, I remember being like, this is ace, because it was very much sort of like I still wanted.
It's a big wall, isn't it? I've climbed there. It's a huge, big flat wall. You've got to hike up to it. There's like there's an E1 right in the middle of there. I've climbed that.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I didn't lead it. I seconded it.
Yeah.
But that's the top part of that climb. It's on micro wires.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, and the first time you place your own gear as well.
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I put a cam in, I was like confident it had been shown enough of what I was doing.
Right.
But the first time you clip your own gear, you're a bit like, have I done it right?
It's a different level of fear, isn't it?
Yeah. So I remember being like, I just cannot fall like at all. And I did take my first fall on my first lead, and it was different. It was different. The ladder was with.
Fell onto the cam, or is it wires?
Yeah, onto a cam, which was great because I was like, well, at least they work.
Yeah. Okay.
Because obviously, unless you climb, you look at them and you kind of like, that is
a lovely piece of equipment. Yeah. For people who are listening or watching, we're talking about climbing equipment, different types of equipment that you put into the rock face to create an anchor point. So if you do fall, it protects you. They're beautiful bits of aluminium.
Yeah. Highly machined and look, they look great.
Sexy, yeah.
You're like, this is amazing, and they're
Very
expensive as well. Yeah. So my first fall was interesting on my first lead,
right?
Because I did think like maybe this isn't for me.
How far did you fall? What was the run out? Or did you fall when the gear came out?
No, it held, but I think I probably fell. It sounds far. It doesn't sound. If I say I fell about 5 or 6 foot, that's then doubled in it because
that's pretty far. Yeah.
So
that's pretty far.
8 to 10 foot is enough for me to have been like that.
If memory serves me right, you measure it in factors, right? Factor 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
With 3 being the worst, or I can't remember.
So
now.
3 is like a massive.
Yeah, really big fall, big run out. Yeah.
The lad I was with was more shook up than me, to be fair.
Yeah, well, if you take that big haul on the belay, I mean, you're terrified.
But the instructor I was with just went, "Go on then,
get on with it."
Yeah, and I remember being like, "What? No sympathy." And he was like, "Oh, you'll do this loads. Don't worry about it." So I did all them really. So that was a great experience. I loved that.
Yeah.
But the reality of doing it as a job is, it's quite a small world.
Yeah.
So now I went from that and I went to work at Climbing Wall in Manchester.
Oh, cool.
So I worked at Rockover for about a year or two, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking this is going to be ace. I get to climb all the time.
Yeah.
You do a lot of hoovering.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hoovering if you're working at Climbing Wall.
All the chalk.
Yeah. It's and it was all right. I loved it. My climbing got very good.
Yeah.
Because bouldering every day.
Yeah.
5 days a week, you're going to get good.
Yeah.
Loved it. But again, it was like, you're doing it for the job and not for a career, effectively.
Yeah, okay.
So then I started working for the Prince's Trust, doing the young people program.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not really addressed any issues that I'd had from the military and losing my dad, really. So,
how many years later is this then?
This is only 2 years.
Okay.
So
you really got after it in since when you stopped and came home.
Yeah.
You really packed in a lot in 2 years.
Yeah, I was very much like.
And you had two.
One at the time, one young son. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got 2 now, but I'd one at the time. Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's because I was constantly busy because I was almost like when people see you running away from a problem.
Yeah.
I definitely was running away from a problem.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are not actually realizing, some of the issues they have, and they are running away.
Yeah.
That's how they end up in bad relationships or bad jobs or
just
tough
definitely
spots. Right?
Stuff just doesn't always work out. I think the way you think it's going to, So I worked at the Prince's Trust for a bit, and that was great. That was a really good move.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it had a lifespan
purely
because I wasn't okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So then went to a normal job then, thinking this is going to be great.
Did you know back then that you weren't okay?
Yeah, definitely. I just didn't.
But was it something you were like, I'll deal with it later?
Yeah,
I'll be all right, kind of thing.
What was tough, me and Matt never really spoke about anything
either,
because we both had our own separate sets of
things to deal with.
Stuff, with our dad was hard. Being a twin is very unique.
Yeah.
So to have the same career and the same loss, you'd think it'd be dead easy to talk about with each other, but it wasn't. I think the one time we did try to talk about it, it was like a few days after our dad passed, and we ended up with just a massive fight.
Right.
Real big sort of scrap with each other. I remember my mum sort of like, bless her, she's like, "Do you not think I've been through enough? And the last thing I need is you two fighting with each other." We were like, "You don't understand." I started doing a normal job after that. I went to an office, worked in telecoms for a bit, thinking this is what I need. I need a solid career, and I hated it.
Why did you choose telecoms?
Just because I needed another job. I just wanted to just do what I deemed as like a job. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what? To be fair,
like in a call center.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, no. To be fair, at the start, I did enjoy it, but I enjoy like meeting new people.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's what I enjoyed.
The social side of it.
Yeah, and I started working with another veteran.
Okay.
And we had a bit of I won't name him, but we had a bit of a chat about some stuff. And he was like, "Have you ever been sort of?" One day, I remember he just kind of went, "Have you ever been depressed about anything?" And I went, "Oh yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah." He's like, "Why?" So I just was like, "I tell you what, you're asking, so I'll tell you everything." And then he was off work. And he basically said to me,
he was off work.
Yeah, he was like, I've been struggling with some stuff, and having talked to you, I've decided that I probably need to get some help, and it's only because of you being so open with me.
Wow.
And it was after that chat with him I thought, actually, maybe I need to kind of be a bit open with myself here. So I went to combat stress. I did like
what's that, like a charity or?
So it's a charity for veterans who and they just deal with any mental health for veterans. So I went and did like a load of bereavement stuff and stuff like that, and because obviously I think if anyone sort of struggled with anything in mental health, I'm not belittling anything or anyone. For me, there was kind of two ways you can deal with it. You can either address the issue with help and support, and you have to make changes in your life.
Yeah.
Or you can sit and be like, well, I'm not very happy about this, and this, and you sort of become hardened to yourself, so you don't get better from it. You just sort of continuously putting plasters on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
So I went to combat stress and did some time there, and from that then it probably wouldn't change anything. It was a huge help. Don't get me wrong.
What do you think it is that helped you? Was it talking about it?
I think I just sort of talked through like what happened with my father and how I feel, how I want to sort of move on from that.
Yeah.
So I basically said I want to move on by doing more in the outdoors, and I want to help other people. So I put this huge focus in and being like, right, well, any outdoor work that I do now, I'll do as most of it as I can as voluntary, helping other veterans, and taking people into the outdoors just if they ask, effectively. Because so if we fast forward a little bit, so now, I'm partnered with a group called Lakota Outdoors now. So that was a friend who basically left the Navy. It saw my Instagram and what I was doing with content photography and the outdoors and stuff, and basically said like, are you an instructor? I was like, I am. Yeah. What do you want? He was like, I've got this idea to create a brand, not necessarily to sort of sell merch, but I want to inspire other people to get out, and I think you would fit well with it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I will help you do it, but we need to do it right. From the offset, it's got to be very clear that this is to help people. I don't want it to be financially beneficial for us. So everything we've done has been for free, basically. So work with other groups or other agencies and take veterans into the outdoors, basically. Because I think what a big part is, I think when you leave the military, a lot of people just it's the change element of it. So going into the normal world, effectively, because you're in this world where no one I ever knew sort of joined the military for your salary, right? So you don't really join for 20 to 30 grand a year, whatever it is you start off on. That's not the motivation for you joining. Same again, like when I was in, when I got promoted and stuff, I remember not really being that bothered about my salary.
Yeah.
Because it's guaranteed every month.
Yep.
And your cost of living where you're in is really cheap.
Yeah.
So I kind of had this sort of perception of like, well, when you're in, you're all there for the same reason.
Yeah.
And you're all working towards this goal.
Yeah.
And although there's ranks and management structures, everyone just kind of goes with the flow in the same direction because everyone's being told what to do by someone else.
Yeah, okay.
So the level of responsibility and discipline that you have is helped by everyone else doing the same thing.
Okay.
Obviously, if me and you were told to iron our uniform, we both iron it, and so everyone's just doing it anyway.
Just get on with it, yeah.
When you leave and go to the normal world, that quickly became apparent that that's not how civilian life is.
Yeah.
And for me, I struggled with that a little bit because I kind of remember I'd be doing things in work and various other jobs, and I'd be like, "Where are you going?" Like, "Well, I'm finished now." Like, yeah, but we've not finished. It still needs doing, or you quite often hear, "Well, that's not my job," and you're like, that I think is tough for a lot of lads and a lot of men and women to sort of adjust to.
Yeah.
So we've basically, the people that we've sort of worked with now, when I say mental health, it's just, I think anyone sort of struggling to like normal sort of how you deal with stress, basically. For me, the outdoors is my like release. Like that's where I go to sort of disconnect from the world for a bit. A big part of my life after leaving the army, really, was being the fact that my dad was a missing person. Mark had joined Search and Rescue whilst I was at Plessy Brennan.
Okay.
And was like, come and join Search and Rescue. You know, they were looking for missing people. Within Cheshire.
Yeah.
Who have...
I was going to say, is it Search and Rescue over in North Wales? Because that's a long way to go.
Yeah.
When you get the call.
I remember being a kid and seeing like Martin Rescue and stuff all the time, being like, oh, what do that? It's a job.
Yeah.
And my dad was always like, it's not a job.
It's a
No, it is a job if you're in the RAF and you're really lucky to be Martin Rescue.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I was at Plas. Mark joined Search and Rescue. I was like, when you finish your qualifications, do this.
For Cheshire?
For Cheshire, yeah.
Okay. Do they get many call outs?
Oh, so busy.
Is it really?
I can't say.
I mean, I do know. Does the Peaks come under Cheshire?
No, they've got their own, but we all work with each other.
Okay.
So if they get a call out and there's not enough members, we will assist them. So we're very busy.
It's kind of hard to believe that in Cheshire there's a lot of mountain rescue work going on.
So what drew me to it was the fact I was like, at the time when I joined, you know, like nearly 10 years ago now, it was not the team that it is today.
Right.
There was not a lot of people. The kit was all really old and not that great. And now there's nearly 100 members.
Oh, wow.
And we've got some of the best equipment in the country.
Wow.
That's all done from fundraising.
Yep.
So we've worked hard for that. But I thought, well, anything that I do with Search and Rescue will it'll bolster my qualifications.
100%, yeah.
But the big bit that drew me to it is we mostly go looking for despondent people. So people who've left a note saying they don't want to be here anymore.
Okay.
So for the first year of me doing it was all for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I was very much like, I was like, we can save everyone. So I nearly stopped after a year because when it would quickly become apparent that sadly we can't.
Yeah.
That took a toll. But then my brother was like, you need to stay because we do a good job and we help each other. So yes, I've done that now for about 10 years. That's been a big part of my life, I think, since leaving the military. Was able to put my outdoor skills and military experience for doing Search and Rescue. Yeah. So Cheshire, there's about 15 people a day recorded missing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's everything
15
from
people a day.
Yeah, everything from people running away from home, elderly people who might be sick or injured.
Yeah.
People who leave a note, disappear. School kids late from school.
Yeah.
Them figures might be slightly different now because of lockdown and COVID and all that sort of stuff. So the police basically have a decision to then make of how they prioritise if we are called and when we're called to help.
Right.
So we are pretty busy. There's only been periods I think where.
So you're getting called out on like a weekly basis?
I wouldn't say it's every week, but
I mean, you've got a lot of members, so
we are very busy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the area is so big.
Wow.
So when I say 15 people a day, obviously Cheshire's a huge area as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very busy.
I mean, I'm thinking 15 cases, and I'm thinking like really serious cases of like, or is it like?
No, yeah, they are serious cases. Yeah. So it literally ranges from like my grandparents got dementia and they've not come home.
Oh wow.
Children are quite rare, to be fair.
I'd said that.
Yeah, children are quite rare, and when children go missing now, it's a massive response.
Yeah. Okay.
After that young girl April Jones, after her, what happened with her, everyone gets called. So it's that I'm quite lucky that my employer lets me sort of, if I get a call out, because I sort of manage my own diary, I can be like, I need to go. See you later, and I'll come back if I can. Because sometimes we'll go and we'll get stood down on the way, or if they get found or they turn up and things like that.
Okay.
It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of time, people do turn up. So yeah, we're pretty busy. So I kind of juggle my own diary, whether I can and can't go. From a someone who's sort of been through it with a family member, to do it now for those reasons, it's been really, really good. So yeah, I've had quite a roller coaster of stuff that I've been involved with.
But there seems to be, or you seem to always be coming back to this point of helping other people, from the military to then what you're doing now, and then even like, doing your leading courses and guiding courses, always coming back to the same thing. So you're obviously gravitating towards that, which means something to you. So
I would like to think so.
That's all positive. That's really positive.
I would like to think so. Yeah, I think heavily due to our upbringing. We were sort of like, help each other,
Yeah.
help each other out, help other people. The military bolstered that massively.
Yeah. Well, if there's ever a time that we need some more of that, it's now.
Well, it's the right thing to do, isn't it?
Sadly, I
why
don't think a lot of people think like that. That's the thing, and that's what's really depressing about COVID. I think is just seeing how shallow a lot of people can be, and how selfish they can be. I mean, we don't need to talk about toilet rolls in supermarkets, do we? But
exactly.
On because it's funny, but it's also really highlights that point. And I think the more of your story that and people like yourself, and there's many of them that can be spread through all the platforms, I think it's really important, because that's what we need reminding of. We need to be reminded of those really important human natures that a lot of people take for granted, or don't feel like they have the confidence of actually talking about or responding in that way, or caring in that way. I think that's one reason why I love doing jiu-jitsu, because a lot of people have a very similar mindset there. I mean, to go on those mats and actually roll over people and get roughed up a little bit and keep your ego in check, it takes quite a special person, I think. And that's why you love it, because you have those qualities inside.
Well, I mean, I put it off a little bit until I spoke to you. And it's because I kind of worried how I would deal with not losing. I don't think that's the wrong word. I think how I would deal with aggression. And how I would deal with aggression. But it's not. Although it's a combat sport, it's not aggression and aggressive as.
Well, it's not. We were talking about this just before the podcast started, and it's not the word. I mean, it can be violent. In some ways, but it's more. I guess it can be more violent from someone looking at from the outside that doesn't understand it. But it can be aggressive, but by and large, it isn't. I don't think.
Like if me and you were to roll now, at any point you can be like, we're stopping. And you're like, okay, then I mean, like I've definitely lost more than what I've won, and I've loved it from the first time. So it was really odd at first. So obviously when I first did my intro classes, I did everything with my partner Jen, because of the bubble thing. Obviously she's a woman, but a different weight category. There's a big difference between me and her. And so I was like, this is dead easy. And she was always like, it's dead hard. I was thinking, it can't be that difficult. And then I rolled with people who were heavier than me. And I was like, wow, this is hard work. Because I remember saying to you the first time I saw you at the gym and you're like, you're out. I was like, God, I thought I was fit until I come here. 5 minutes is a long time to be scrapping. But then the first time I did an open mat, I don't know what I thought I was going to when I went to an open mat, but I definitely didn't think I'd be rolling for an hour. And obviously after a day's work as well, it is hard work.
Yeah, for sure. It's a complete different type of fitness. But
I've absolutely loved it, and I think I've never took an ego to it either. So like if I've lost, I've just been like, I've lost.
That's
like,
the best way.
I'm not really that bothered. I've done it as it's a hobby, but it's just something else that I do. And I've loved it. It's been absolutely awesome. I think the gym's great, the atmosphere is great. Fitness wise, I think if you were to do it just that to get fit, you're never going to get fit. I think to complement everything that you do though, it works really well. But again, so when we joined that, I wanted to join with Mark, because we were like, we'll get to beat each other up. And the first time that we actually had a roll with each other, I think at the end of that 5 minutes, both had like no gi top on, no belts on, both just like lay on the mat like, and Adam was like, "You all right?" And we're like, yeah. So now I think
it's got 30 years of just angst out on the system.
My mum's seen a video of us at the 24-hour thing,
right?
And she was like, "You definitely started that in your teenage years when you were upstairs," and we were like, "Stop fighting."
I mean, just looking at your Instagram profile and all those amazing shots that you've got, and obviously how active you are in the outdoors every weekend going out, that's inspiration in itself.
There's great. A few people who've said to me like, I live vicariously through your life. I kind of like laughed it off, because for me it's just, I've always sort of said to people like when I made this decision, I never envisioned doing what I do online now to be such a big part of my life.
I absolutely love the outdoors as well. Grew up loving it. just come back from the lakes yesterday. We were out there. I went out with my kids and my wife for my birthday, and it's just so healing to me. It's it just makes me feel recharged, and it's off. And what's the best thing is that, you know, my kids are not on their iPhones, they're not on their iPads for the entire day, and it's just like a complete different perspective for them.
Yeah.
And the dog was happy, fresh air, everyone had a great night's sleep. I mean, in the year of talking about health and well-being and mental health, like, just get out into nature is so important. And that's why I love your profile, because that's what it says. That's what it says. Yeah. It says get out and get some of this. Thanks very much for coming over. Everything you do is so positive. And I think, you know, your story should inspire other people to get out there and do the same. Get out into nature, follow your dreams and your passions, and you can lead a awesome life.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for coming on, man.
No,
It's
thank
been
you very
awesome.
much. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.